Are you ready, Mr. Chief? Okay, guys, we have a very special guest today, so I've adjusted the framing to get him in. Mr. Chief is with me. We're going to be breaking down Bledisloe number 2. Actually, pretty juicy when you look at the two lineups here. Let's start with the All Blacks. We'll take a look at the Wallabies team sheet. I will give you a prediction for the rematch in Perth. You could call it a dead rubber. Theoretically, the Rugby Championship is still on the line. We'll talk about that at the end. I really think it's South Africa's to lose. You know, the All Blacks, to a certain extent, are playing for pride. It's been a win, a loss, a win, a loss. They are struggling for consistency this year under Razor. Some high highs, some of the best attacking rugby we've seen in quite a while from the All Blacks. Obviously some low lows this season, including Wellington. But they want to put a statement performance in this weekend, and they're going to be doing it without Ethan de Groot and also Tyrel Lomax, who could miss the entire season. He re-injured that thumb. You could just tell from the way he was stroking it when he went down, he was in a lot of pain. So we do have Tamaiti Williams finally getting a start at number 1. He has come off the bench. He has not looked like himself. Let's not mince our words here. He has been very disappointing. The scrum has not really held up when Tamaiti's been on the field. Now, he did improve in his last outing, but man, he's got a lot of ground to make up before he gets back to the heights of last year's form. Fletcher Newell, for me, has actually probably been the most solid scrummager out there, so very happy with his inclusion. Of course, when you've got 100 plus tests under your belt, you're going to bring a lot to the table. That is Codie Taylor. Lineout just goes so much better with him throwing. And I would have liked to see Fabian Holland out there. However, he is a casualty this week. And here's the deal with Fabian Holland, who is just so reliable at winning that front of line-out ball. If he's not starting, he's probably not going to be on the bench anymore. He's really a 70-minute guy. Incredible stamina, incredible consistency, maybe not as much impact off the bench as a guy like Patrick Tuipulotu, who does earn that bench spot this week. So I was very disappointed to see Holland missing from the starting lineup. But of course, Scott Barrett, the captain, is going to slot right back in, and Tupou is a reliable ball winner too. You just have to wonder, though, are we missing a little bit of height in the loose forward? Simon Parker has been that big bruising body that we need. Obviously, Ardie Savea is absolutely untouchable. He's always going to be in there. But you see Wallace Sititi paying the price for a little bit of inferior form. He's definitely finding his way back. But look, he had a pretty rough injury this year. He's missed a lot of time. He has not hit the 2024 standards, a bit like Tamaiti Williams. It just shows that against this caliber of opposition, you can't just come out of 2 months on the sidelines, easing back in training, and hit top gear. It's not going to happen. So Sititi, you could say, has been a little quiet by his pretty stratospheric standards. He pays the price because Peter Lakai looked busy. He looked involved at Eden Park last week, carrying hard, good defensively. He's earned this spot, and we do have to keep building that loose forward depth, so I'm all for that. 9 and 10, to be honest, is one hell of an exciting attacking combination. Obviously disappointing to see Bode and Barrett go down. A lot of you on this channel are ready for Barrett to give up the reins at 10. You think Richie Mo'unga will usurp him when he comes back. I think some of you are ready to see the D-Mac show again. I am. I think that this combination is well suited to playing the Aussies. What I'm talking about is they have an appetite for throwing the ball around. It's really the All Blacks and the Wallabies leading the pack in international rugby for willingness to counter-attack and to really put some air on the ball. So I love this halves combination. What I love even more is that we've gone back to Lester Fainga'anuku. He is starting at 11. A bit of a like-for-like replacement with Caleb Clarke. Maybe doesn't have those high ball skills, but certainly brings that power game, that dynamism that Clarke showed last week. Clarke was so good. It was such a shame to see him limp off injured at Eden Park. That bloke cannot stay fit. But man, Fainga'anuku hasn't been sighted since the Rugby World Cup quarterfinal against Ireland, that famous win for New Zealand. I think we've been missing him. I think it is fantastic to see him out there. And Razor's taken a conservative approach. You know, Fainga'anuku's been called into the squad as injury cover. He's been there for quite some time, but Razor's taken his time letting him acclimate back to international standard after a couple of years in France playing club rugby. Another casualty of indifferent form is Billy Proctor. Now, again, quite good at Eden Park. Good defensive reads, did find some space on attack. But on the other hand, is that the standard we expect from an All Black 13? You know, cast your mind back to a Conrad Smith. Let's hold this to the highest standards here, guys. You know, we're not getting vintage midfield All Blacks rugby at this point. So it's worth going with Tupaea for a game. He was electric off the bench. On the wing, don't forget, when he came off the bench at Eden Park, he was definitely the most impactful back, but he was tearing it up. That hunger and appetite, looking for work, breaking the line, that has absolutely earned him a spot. And speaking of looking for work, I mean, Leroy Carter has been a revelation, bringing that 7 skill set to the game, that relentless, hungry attack. Are you hungry for salmon? You look a little bit hungry. This guy's either sleeping or hassling me for fish. Well, Leroy Carter, he loves a try as much as Chief loves freeze-dried salmon. So let's hope he gets a meat pie on the weekend. Of course, Will Jordan's not going to be going anywhere. He's a permanent fixture at 15. But you go to the bench. We'll actually start with the backs first. Of course, Cortez Ratama is going to be there. That's your 1-2 punch for New Zealand. It's Roigard and Ratama. But Rico Ioane gets a look in. You know, he's been missing for a few weeks. And then Reuben Love is the backup 10. I think that's exciting. He is going to be green as Goose, S-H-I-T, but the upside is there. You go to the bench. You know, we might lose a little bit in the scrum with Pasilio Tosi, dynamic around the field, but not quite at that caliber of a Tyrel Lomax. Okay. George Bauer, he's been there, done that. He's experienced. As I mentioned, Sititi is going to be coming off the bench. So we're going to need to fight fire with fire towards the end when you look at who the Aussies have on the bench. So speaking of, let's go to their team. So, you know, this should be the farewell for James Slipper. You know, did get 150 caps last week. Although, you know, I kept hearing about Nick White's retirement. So I guess we'll see if this retirement sticks. I think this one might. And look, huge bodies out there. Nick Frost, Will Skelton coming right back in. Skelton was so damaging against the Lions, really turned the Aussies around in that series against the British and Irish Lions. The Lineout wins, the rolling maul, punching up the middle, putting bullet holes in the opposition defensive line. That's Skelton. So he worries me. You know, we don't have that kind of brawn. This Wallabies pack is bigger. You look at Fraser McReight, Harry Wilson there, Tom Hooper. Man, the Aussies owned the breakdown last week at times. You know, I don't know if the All Blacks were getting isolated or what it was, but not enough has gone into the fundamentals of retaining ball. Yes, possession and territory were exemplary for 20 minutes, the opening quarter. After that, no. Very subpar. The All Blacks need to hold on to the ball more, and then you just have a dream backline, you know, led by Roigard and McKenzie, who can really do damage. But without possession, this game could easily get away from us. I do prefer the All Blacks halves pairing, but Gordon and Edmund, they have time together in the saddle at the TARS, so I do like the chemistry of that 9-10 combination. You know, you might think that on paper James O'Connor is better, but he was very out of sorts last week. He had flown around the world. That probably didn't help, might explain some of his rare miscues and fluffs. But one other change for the Aussies is Daugunu comes in, and look, I think that is a very strong wing pairing. You know, Corey Toole drops off, didn't quite win that aerial battle. It's refreshing to say the All Blacks got the better of the aerial game last week. I think you're seeing a wee bit of a casualty there. Someone's head had to roll for some of those drop balls. It looks like it's him. Ikitau and Suali'i, world-class midfield combination. And Max Jorgensen backs up again at fullback, usually a winger. But, hey, he can carve it up from the back too. Now, I mentioned the bench. Here's what worries me. Taniela Tupou coming on. He's not an 80-minute man. Okay, we've kind of seen that. But boy, could he do damage for the final 30 minutes of the game. But more than that, it's Valetini. Now, he was missing last week. I just felt the Aussies were missing a trick. Yes, Harry Wilson was always running the ball up, carting it up relentlessly. Yes, Fraser McReight was a demon at the breakdown. Yes, Tizano was brilliant when he came on, scored a try. But this bolsters the Aussie loose forward mix a lot. Tempting to start Valetini, but, you know, you have guys out there at 6, 7, and 8 who have really been in good form all year. So I think Valetini's going to come on and just empty the tank for 30 minutes. The ABs need to really sweat on that final quarter. Yes, they lifted at Eden Park, but that has been their Achilles heel yet again this year, closing games out. Okay. Sometimes it's been good. You know, first game against Argentina, we hit them with those two Samisoni Tokiaho rolling mauls. Beautiful. Put them away. But need I mention Wellington, that final quarter fade, if you want to use a euphemistic term, against the Springboks, still signs that the ABs are not sustaining their efforts in the second half, particularly towards the pointy end of the game. Ryan Lonergan was pretty good last week, you know, came on early, got a good kicking game. and Josh Fluke there rounding them out. So overall, how am I feeling? I think the Aussies are favourites. Now, I'm going to pick the All Blacks, okay, to win narrowly, maybe a similar scoreline to Eden Park. And I'm not trying to hedge my bets here, but I won't be surprised if Aussie gets up. It would be incredibly disappointing from a New Zealand perspective. We really need 2 wins in a row. We need to get off this form roller coaster. I think we can do it, but we're going to have to retain that ball better. So my prediction is the Aussies will win if the ABs do not shore up the breakdown. If our attacking breakdown looks like it did at Eden Park, this game is not going the way of New Zealand. The Aussies will feast on that ball. Mark my words. They're going to get better ball carrying from Skelton and Valetini when he comes on. So watch out for that. We're going to have to really D up. But yeah, let's go with a narrow New Zealand win here. As for the Rugby Championship, South Africa's to lose. Sure, you could see a boil over, and it would be that. You could have a draw or a narrow win to the Pumas on the neutral territory of Twickenham. So many South Africans there. You know, if you've ever been to London, you'll know that it's a wash with Springboks fans. So probably closer to a home game for South Africa. You know, not quite Johannesburg or Cape Town, but close enough. But listen, the Boks too. I mean, they went lose, win, win. Are they due for another loss? I guess we'll see. But, you know, I can't put my hand on my heart and tell you the All Blacks deserve the championship. Short of an almighty performance this week, a thrashing of Australia, and, you know, an uncharacteristically off-colour performance from the South Africans, who have been in their best ever form the past couple of weeks. So I think the championship is going to the Republic. I'd love to be wrong, and I do think the All Blacks will get another win. What do you guys think? Sound off in the comments. Like, subscribe, send this video to someone who loves rugby. And hey, if you ever want to send a super chat, I promise to buy Chief some salmon with that money. It does help the channel grow. Love you guys. Enjoy the rugby this weekend. I'll be doing a full breakdown on Sunday. I am shooting a film in Atlanta this weekend, but definitely going to watch both games and report back on the round overall. So I will be seeing you guys then. Until that time, take it easy. Bye for now.